Darkness. A faint wind. For a moment nothing exists but silence. And then the soft echo of footsteps walking through time itself. The camera drifts forward, entering a world where the past is not gone, only hidden, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover it. And so begins the investigation into who we are, where we come from, and why the story inside our DNA is far more extraordinary than the story we think we know. Most people believe their identity comes from the place they were born, the language they speak, the traditions they carry. But the truth is deeper, etched into molecular threads that began long before nations, long before borders, long before the idea of identity even existed. Your DNA is a time machine, a witness, a storyteller. And sometimes it carries secrets so shocking they can collapse everything we thought we knew about ourselves. Imagine a young woman in modern Mexico, confident about her ancestry, proud of her roots. All her life she believed her family came solely from the indigenous land her grandmother spoke about, the traditions her mother practiced, the stories passed from generation to generation. She takes a DNA test expecting confirmation, expecting a simple reflection of everything she already knows. But what she finds is impossible. Her ancestry reveals a story no one ever told her, a story no one ever imagined. Her genetic map shows pieces scattered across continents, fragments from ancient civilizations, migrations, forgotten ancestors who crossed deserts, oceans, and empires. And suddenly the question changes. It is no longer, who am I? It becomes, who were they? The investigation begins not with her life, but with the lives of those who came long before her. DNA opens a window into worlds thousands of years old. Every percentage in her results represents real people, ancestors who lived, fought, loved, dreamed, survived, and passed on the spark of life that eventually reached her. One after another, their stories awaken like ghosts rising from dust. First comes the ancient indigenous bloodlines, older than pyramids, older than the empires that would rise and fall across the Americas. These ancestors walked the mountains of Mexico before the first stone of Teotihuacan was laid. They carried fire through forests, harvested crops that would change the world, carved symbols into stone that still whisper in the wind. Their DNA holds the resilience of people who resisted both nature and conquest. Their blood beats like a drum, echoing through centuries, reminding us that the story of ancient Mexico is not just history, it is memory, alive inside every heartbeat. But then another thread emerges, one that no one expected, a lineage from across the Atlantic, born in a land of monarchs, castles, and the rise and fall of European empires. A legacy from the time when continents collided through exploration and tragedy. Her DNA reveals ancestors who boarded ships during the Age of Discovery, some willingly, some forced by fate, some searching for hope, some escaping war, hunger, or persecution. Their footsteps cross oceans, merge with indigenous civilizations, and create bloodlines that rewrite identity itself. And just when she thinks the story cannot become more complex, her DNA exposes an even older journey, far beyond Mexico, far beyond Europe, a migration older than history itself. A thread that leads back to Africa, the birthplace of every human being alive, the cradle of humanity. A place where the first humans looked up at the sky and wondered, just as we do now, who they were and where they were going. This connection is not symbolic, it is literal. Every human alive today carries the imprint of ancient African ancestors who walked the grasslands nearly 200,000 years ago. Their courage made existence itself possible. Suddenly, her identity is no longer a single story. It is an epic, an ancient grand migration across continents and centuries. She realizes that her blood carries the rise and fall of empires, the survival of civilizations, the triumphs of explorers, the endurance of farmers, warriors, mothers, fathers, rebels, kings, and nameless ancestors whose stories were never written down, but whose DNA still speaks. And yet DNA does more than reveal origins. It exposes mysteries. One day she notices something strange in her results, a cluster of markers linked to an ancient population long vanished from the world, a people wiped out not by war or conquest, but by time. Their languages forgotten, their cities reduced to dust, their names erased from history, but somehow a piece of them survived, not in books, not in ruins, but in her. An entire civilization that disappeared thousands of years ago lives on in fragments of her DNA. She is the last whisper of their existence. This discovery changes everything, because DNA is not just science, it is a resurrection. It brings back the forgotten, it pulls stories out of silence. As she digs deeper into her ancestry, she learns that many genetic lineages are still misunderstood. Some appear suddenly in her DNA profile, leaving scientists puzzled. How did this population arrive in the Americas? Were they travelers from Asia who crossed the Bering Strait during the last ice age? Were they sailors who braved the Pacific thousands of years before recorded history? Or were they part of a forgotten wave of migration that archaeology has yet to uncover? Each clue becomes a doorway, each percentage a chapter. The deeper she goes, the more she realizes that identity is not a simple answer. It is a constellation, a mosaic of ancestors stretching across space and time. And then another shock. Her mitochondrial DNA, the lineage passed from mother to child, reveals a mutation found in a rare group of ancient people who survived one of the greatest catastrophes in human history. The eruption of a supervolcano that covered continents in ash and nearly wiped humanity off the map. Her survival today is the final echo of those who refused to die. She imagines them, women standing on volcanic plains, children hiding from ash that darkened the sky, families migrating across collapsing ecosystems, refusing to surrender. Against all odds, they lived. Against all odds, she exists. She begins to see her DNA not as a test result, but as a map of human survival, a living archive of resilience.
But the greatest moment comes when she realizes something even more powerful. None of her ancestors ever knew each other. They lived in different worlds, different ages, different realities. They spoke different languages, prayed to different gods, fought different wars, built different homes, survived different dangers. And yet, all of them, somehow, through war and peace, love and tragedy, life and death, carried the chain of existence forward long enough for her to be born. The probability of her existence becomes almost impossible. For her to stand in the present, millions of ancestors had to survive everything the universe threw at them: disease, famine, extinction events, invasions, climate collapse, and chaos. One broken link and she would never have existed. She begins to understand that identity is not a box, not a label, not a nationality. Identity is the entire human story. But this story also comes with responsibility, because DNA does not just tell us where we come from, it shows us how deeply connected we truly are. When we look closely, the borders that divide us vanish. The differences we argue about collapse into dust. We are not separate tribes. We are branches of the same ancient tree. Our ancestors walked the same earth, breathed the same air, dreamed under the same sky. Humanity is a single family that forgot it was a family. As she stands with the final printout of her DNA results in her hands, the truth becomes undeniable. Her identity is not smaller than she believed. It is infinitely larger. She carries indigenous blood older than recorded time. She carries European blood shaped by centuries of exploration and conflict. She carries African blood that connects her to the very dawn of humanity. She carries the scars, triumphs, and dreams of ancestors she will never meet. She begins to feel something new, not confusion, not shock, but awe. Because the story of her DNA is not unique. It is the story of millions of people across the world who discovered that their ancestry is not a straight line, but a river with many branches, a river shaped by migration, love, war, chance, and survival. And then the most profound realization. DNA is not a story about the past. It is a story about the present, about how humans became so connected, so intertwined, so mixed, that the idea of pure ancestry is nothing more than a myth. Every one of us is the result of countless journeys, countless struggles, countless acts of courage made by people who lived long before us. So she breathes deeply, closes her eyes, and finally understands the truth her DNA has been trying to tell her. She is not just one thing, she is many things. She is not the end of her story. She is the continuation of thousands. Identity is not what we think it is. It is far more ancient, far more beautiful, and far more powerful. We are all collections of forgotten stories. We are all survivors of impossible odds. We are all walking archives of human history. And in the quiet moment when she looks at her reflection, she realizes something she will never forget. Her DNA is not just a test result. It is a masterpiece.